Hello.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. This is a special meeting of Council, Wednesday, July 29, 2026, called to order at 7:01. And I look to Councillor McConkey for the territorial acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chair. North Saanich exists on the traditional territories of the Saanich peoples, specifically Pauquichin and Sikkim. We recognize these neighboring municipalities are an active and vital part of our community, and the district is committed to building relationships built on trust, mutual respect, and working together on matters of common interest.
Thank you. We now move on to item 3, which is introduction to late items. We have 2 late items, which is 7A2, and the late items are item 48 and 49. Are there any other late items? I see none, so I look for a motion, an approval of the agenda with late items. Councillor Marshall has seconded Councillor Sanjeev. Any questions, comments? I see none. Those in favour? Unanimous. We now move right on to item 5, which is public participation period, and I'm assuming there's going to be a number of speakers tonight, so I'll go through the rules of procedures. Persons wishing to address council must state their name and municipality of residence for identification and also the topic involved. Questions and comments must be on topics which are not normally dealt with by the municipal staff as a matter of routine. Questions and comments must be addressed through the chair and answers given likewise. Debates with or questions of individual council members will not be allowed. No commitments shall be made by the chair in replying to a question. Matters which may require action of the council shall be referred to a future meeting of the council. Each speaker during public participation period must use respectful language and refrain from making offensive gestures or signs, and is limited to speaking for 3 minutes or unless authorized by the chair to speak for a longer period of time. And 20 minutes will be allotted for the public participation period unless extended by a vote of council. So would the first person that wishes to speak please come forward?
Can I be heard by everyone? Push a button. Okay. Yep. Joan Pashley, North Saanich. I should be out farming, but I'm here instead. 20 years ago, I was at meetings like this on exactly the same issue. I am still concerned about the same things now that I was concerned about then. Despite piles of more building in Sydney, more building on Marigold land, tons of housing in Langford, all the same problems are still here. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Burnaby solved the problem by buying apartment buildings and having a council that only rented to workers who were working in that community. You build more housing, more people come here. We already have the largest seniors population, although Nova Scotia is fast outgrowing us. We don't have the resources we're going to need in the next 20 years, let alone the next year, if we have what just happened to Japan. How are we going to provide enough water for the animals, people in North Saanich and Sydney if we have a 0.7 earthquake that takes out all the connections to Souk? How are we going to feed those people when we don't have food security? So all this focus on housing is missing what actually matters, which is how are we going to keep people alive when, I'm not allowed to say those words, I don't think, but S-H-I-T, it hits the fan real hard. So the current system has shown in 20 years that Building more housing isn't solving the problem. We need a totally new model, and we need to convince the provincial government of that fact. Point number 2, we are also massively ignoring what is happening in Europe this year. They have had heat wave after heat wave after heat wave. We are very lucky, but we had a heat dome. More people died in 2 weeks of that heat dome than during COVID. So this is a very real concern. And yet the homes people are building, they're allowed to build homes that aren't going to cope without air conditioning, except when you have a heat dome, that's the first thing that's going to go. Because that's going to mean that our winter snowpack will have been less. So we're not going to have the cheap, renewable electricity unless we have plans to make sure that happens. We also know from what Europe has done and other places that growing forests is one of the best protection from heat waves. Mm-hmm. It's one of the, having pocket parks with good forestry is critical to keeping people cool and alive. And yet I don't see that happening, and that's easy to do. So if you ain't doing the easy things, Lord help us about the hard things. So those are really my 3 points. I was just this afternoon listening to an interesting YouTube by the Officer of the Order of the British Empire, Mina Husman, which specifically was about building for a hotter world, and air conditioning wasn't the answer.
Thank you.
Michael Woodward, North Saanich. I'd like to speak about infrastructure, our present built infrastructure, particularly the sewage treatment plant and the point of marine discharge. I was a member of the Environmental Advisory Commission of North Saanich when this plant was first conceived, at times as chair, and I resigned from that commission so I could be more outspoken about the point of marine discharge. I'm an oceanographer. Part of my duties in the past was to advise engineers with data and advice regarding these marine outfalls for the whole coast of British Columbia. I'm looking back to the year 2000, which is where have figures for the original design capacity of the plant, around 18,000 cubic meters per day average flow. And I got some information that refers to the April this year minutes of the Wastewater Commission. And I see by my calculations that we're now at 74% of the treatment capacity as of December this last year. This commission has created a technical advisory committee that is advised to defer a review of our liquid waste management plan until new provincial and federal guidelines are available. New standards may reduce allowable marine discharges at the present site, increase requirements for treatment, and/or put constraints on expanding the existing plant. When the new standards are available, this advisory committee estimates 3 years to review the existing waste management plan. We don't know when these new provincial or federal guidelines or regulations will be available. We may not know where we stand with respect to this plant 5 years or more down the road. The original plant had a design horizon of 2012. I don't believe the plant has substantially changed from its original design, except to enclose the headworks, because as their chief designer said, We never said it wouldn't stink. Well, I would advise you to be very cautious about this matter. Many people continue to expect to have a shower and flush their toilets. We don't live on submarines. You can get by with 2 gallons. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Barbara Tolmie, North Saanich. Like the first speaker, I have been interested and been involved with the OCP for many years. I have actively participated in the OCP review process through public meetings, written submissions, neighborhood outreach, and 2 subdivision applications. During that time, I consistently heard strong support for sensitive infill and quarter-acre lot development in the southeast quadrant and the terraces. We are on sewer and water. What concerns and frustrates me is that this documented support has largely disappeared from the current discussions. Public engagement results showing support for smaller lots have not been reflected in the OCP, showing exaggerated claims about the impact of these modest changes have always been presented as facts. I want to publicly state that I support the provision for allowing sensitive infill and quarter-acre lots, and I do not support retaining the current 1/3 acre minimum lot. A quarter-acre lot is not high-density development. It is a reasonable, measured approach that provides more housing opportunities while preserving the character of North Saanich. I hope that Council will base its decision on all documented input and verifiable evidence since the beginning of the OCP review, which started a few years ago, and is not based on fear-based speculation. The support for smaller quarter-acre lot is real, has been expressed repeatedly throughout the OCP process, and it needs to be recognized in the revised OCP. Thank you.
My name is Terry Gould, resident of North Saanich. U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt once told a group of union rights activists, "I agree with you, now make me do it." I want to thank the mayor for essentially telling us the same thing when it came to writing his updated reply to Christine Boyle's proposed housing supply directives. At your invitation on July 13th, more than 120 residents filled this room and 24 people spoke for over 90 minutes. Then, again at your invitation, they wrote 47 well-reasoned letters published in today's agenda. The vast majority argued that Boyle's directives were based on a gravely flawed CBRE report, which in turn was based on a sloppy, error-filled reading of our OCP and the findings of other reports that were provably and factually wrong. Our OCP categorically states, quote, "Housing and development demand for a 20-year period have been accounted for in this OCP as per provincial legislative requirements." Ignoring the factual evidence for this premise in our OCP, Boyle proposed that to meet our targets, we had to reduce minimum lot sizes, rezone existing R2 lands, expand subdivision opportunities, and extend into North Saanich 3 large urban containment boundaries that would urbanize 7 square kilometers of our district. Mayor, you commendably objected to all these proposed directives because they are not necessary to meeting our housing targets. I do, however, have a small criticism with the way you phrased the first part of your paragraph, objecting to the extension of the 3 UCBs into our district because there is room for misinterpretation. On page 3, paragraph 4, you state, although this arises from a proposed additional reporting requirement rather than a directive, Council cannot support movement of the urban containment boundary or the inclusion of Dean Park Estates within Area 3, the southeast quadrant. You then go on to categorically object to the extension of the UCBs in all 3 areas, but the beginning of the paragraph that deals with Dean Park Estates leaves room for Boyle to mistakenly believe that you could be willing to compromise on having the terraces included in a UCB. I've checked this with other readers, and they came away with the same conclusion. I don't think it's clear why you single out Dean Park Estates as separate from the southeast quadrant in the context of flatly rejecting the movement of 3 UCBs into our district. To avoid giving Boyle a handle, maybe give Dean Park its own short paragraph with a line of background explanation. Thank you.
Okay. I can give a comment.
I'm sorry, I can't hear, guys.
Sorry, I can give you a comment on that, why Dean Park. Because
Yeah.
Dean Park is different to most other areas of North Saanich because it has a covenant.
Yeah,
So that's mentioned in there so that if we don't get a satisfactory arrangement with the Minister of Housing or the province, the chances are then that the province will try to remove the covenants that are on land title, which would then bring in the lower mainland especially, places such as British Properties, which would then exacerbate or increase the pressure on the provincial government. Because to change Dean Park from 1/3 of an acre to 0.22 of an acre will require the removal of the covenant on the land title.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think you should take it out from that paragraph and give it its own little section.
And we will look at that because I haven't noticed that. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. My name is Diane Reif. I'm a resident of North Saanich. First, I'd like to thank you for strengthening this second draft of the letter to Minister Boyle and for listening to the concerns raised by constituents. I would like to suggest that one critical issue be given much greater emphasis in the letter. That is the absolute necessity to challenge the province on exactly how much excess housing North Saanich will be left with over and above our mandated targets if the province issues directives based on this advisor's report. Before the province relies on the CBRE report to alter our planning framework, we must know the exact scale of surplus housing that could be forced upon us. Failing to calculate the surplus is a critical omission that undermines the very foundation of the province's recommendations. Council must address this directly in its letter. By contrast, our local planning does provide strict statistical clarity. An email obtained through an FOI dated Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, titled OCP Density Policy Development Documentation, explicitly shows how our municipal planning department quantified housing capacity based on a defined planning framework. Our official community plan clearly identifies and quantifies the housing capacity North Saanich is planning to accommodate, providing a transparent basis for understanding exactly how the housing capacity in our plan was determined. The CBRE report, however, does not provide a comparable analysis. Most importantly, It fails to explicitly isolate and disclose how many units those recommendations would create above and beyond North Saanich's provincial housing target. Without those baseline numbers, Council and the public cannot determine whether the proposed densities are necessary, proportionate, or supported by evidence. Thank you.
Mayor and council staff, my fellow residents, good evening. My name is Spring Harrison, Forest Park Drive. I think my piece here is about 2 sentences over 3 minutes, so I'll try and pick up the pace here. I would like to comment on the draft response to the Minister regarding the CBRE advisory report and the proposed Housing Supply Act directives. First, I want to acknowledge that the draft letter is comprehensive, sets a reasonable tone, and is generally moving in the right direction. It correctly defends the recently adopted OCP, raises infrastructure and fiscal concerns, identifies the need to respect the regional growth strategy, and importantly, it rejects movement of the urban containment boundary into North Saanich. That said, I believe the response should be strengthened before it is sent. The first point is clarity. If Council's position is that the urban containment boundary should not be moved into North Saanich in any of the 3 proposed areas, then the letter should say so explicitly. As it stands, the paragraph on page 3 is somewhat ambiguous. The issue is too important to leave open to interpretation. The UCB is a core part of the regional growth strategy and of North Saanich's role within the region. Second, the letter should make clear that the housing targets themselves have not been adequately justified. Council should not accept that the housing target order has been adequately reconciled with the regional growth strategy, the district's role outside the urban containment boundary, or the recently adopted OCP. Before directives are considered, the province should provide the methodology and statutory analysis showing how the targets were derived and how they comply with the Housing Supply Act requirement to consider regional growth strategies. Third, affordability should be addressed more directly. The proposed directives appear to be housing count measures, not affordability measures. More market units do not automatically create affordable units. In a high-value, high-desirability land market, additional density can simply produce more expensive market housing unless affordability is built into the approval, tenure, covenant, ownership, or financing structure. So fourth, I believe the Council should ask for more than just delay. Given the factual error already identified in the advisor's report and the unresolved cumulative impacts of the proposed directives, the lack of demonstrated affordability outcomes, the unresolved infrastructure and service impacts, and the insufficient explanation of consistency with the RGS, Council should ask the Minister to pause and reassess the CBRE advisory report and the proposed directives before taking further action. So to sum up, North Saanich should continue to accept a fair and defensible share of regional housing need, but fair share must be established through a transparent method that respects regional planning, rural land protection, agricultural values, infrastructure capacity, and actual affordability. So I therefore urge Council to strengthen the draft response before sending it and to clearly request that the CBRE advisory report and the proposed ministerial directives be paused and reassessed through an open and collaborative process with the Ministry. Thank you.
Just excuse me, through the chair, you need to have a motion to extend the public participation period.
Oh, I didn't. That time went back. Yeah, extend. Certainly. You could please put your hands up if you wish to speak tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just see 4. Is that correct? Okay. So we got 4 people times 3. Call it 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
I'll make the motion to extend for 20 minutes.
Seconded. Councillor McClintock. Those in favour? Unanimous? Sorry, please proceed.
Susan Chandler, North Saanich. What is the potential tax burden of increased density to North Saanich residents? How will water, sewage, schools, flood mitigation, hospitals, policing, parking, transit, fire protection, green and agricultural lands be impacted by increased density? And what will be the associated costs for residents? We have two approaches to housing in North Saanich, our existing OCP and the CBRE report. I would request that Council direct staff to estimate the comparative infrastructure costs for these two very different approaches. Sorry, Ben. Our existing OCP is built upon and uses justifiable data, including land area, lot sizes, floor area ratio, land costs, construction values, housing typology unit counts, and sales value. The densities are well justified in our OCP and will let us meet provincial housing targets. In comparison, nowhere in the CBRE report is there an extrapolation of how many units could be constructed over a 20-year time frame based on the introduction of 6-story buildings, small-scale multiple-unit housing, reduced minimum lot sizes for lots. There is no data to support the density proposed, and no calculation of housing units, either market or non-market. In summary, we need a clear understanding of whether or not the required infrastructure to support the densities suggested in the CBRE report can be supplied and what the estimated costs might be. Let's not repeat the experience in Langford with double-digit tax increases over the past 4 years. And finally, long live the urban containment boundary. Thank you.
Good evening. I'll take my turn. My name is Greg Warner, and a lot of the previous speakers have dealt with some of the things I'd like to say, but I'm going to say them again. I think I mentioned I live in North Saanich, but I would like to comment and make suggestions for change to the draft letter to the Minister under Agenda Item 7AI. Due to the deficiencies within the CBRE report, the letter from the Mayor should request the following information. A pro forma analysis to justify the CBRE recommended proposed densities. Just as an example, where did the 6-story buildings come from? What is the support for that? B, a land capacity study to support the proposed densities. C, it should be requested that the Minister provide a rationale as to why the medium densities of North Saanich OCP are not acceptable to the province, but they are acceptable to other municipalities in the CRD, which use very similar floor ratios and height restrictions and are meeting their housing targets. D, Minister Boyle states the advisor conducted a 10-week review, which included interviews with yourselves, district staff, as well as a review of council decisions, bylaws, policies, and procedures. Ms. Boyle's letter does not mention former municipal staff, active developers, third-party consultants, and other stakeholders who were also consulted. Council should request a copy of all of the former staff, active developers, third-party consultants, and specifically other stakeholders that took part in the interview process of the advisor's report. E, because the report and the Minister's letter specifically reference individual properties, the Council must look closely at the methodology of the consultation process. The letter for the Mayor should request the following. Number 1, the number of participants and the criteria used to select them. Number 2, how competing viewpoints were balanced. And 3, how the gathered information directly influenced the final recommendations. Without this transparency, neither Council nor the public can assess if the process was balanced or if certain stakeholders groups were disproportionately represented. To strengthen public confidence in the independence of this review, Council should formally request confirmation of, number 1, whether interview participants held direct or indirect financial interest in the proposed properties discussed. 2, whether landowners or development proponents whose properties are specifically referenced participated in the consultation. And 3, what procedures were used to identify and manage potential conflicts of interest. I would also suggest one wording change on page 5. On page 5, second paragraph, please remove the reference to consumption of services report. I find it very confusing, and it's my understanding that no one uses this kind of nomenclature. Instead of consumption of services report, use the term infrastructure capacity assessment. This is more descriptive, and when I read that, I think sewer, water, roads, schools, parking, fire protection, and related infrastructure needs and costs associated. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jack Thornburg, North Saanich. I have a lot of admiration for the new format, the new letter, and I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate the work that went into it. I don't know how many people were involved, but I thought it was a wonderful start. I do agree with a couple of colleagues like Spring Harrison, who brings up a few things that could be, I think, put in or at least might be put in a slightly different way. But I think the overall effort is excellent, and I certainly hope that province listens. I particularly liked the last page, which deals with directives 2, 3, and 4 straight on. And to me, I don't even like the word directives. It sounds too much like edicts or demands. And I think a good provincial government should be working in cooperation with its municipalities rather than issuing directives from above. I mean, the senior government has power over the junior government, and I understand that. But there was, to me, very little attempt to do a real connectivity of brain power, where some of their people meet with us and talk about these things before these directives are issued. To me, that sounds, I mean, the way it happens, it almost sounds like an authoritarian top-down. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
It does not say the district will amend parking standards. It says parking standards will be reviewed. It does not say the district will reduce minimum lot sizes. It says the cumulative impact of the province's proposed changes will first be analysed. It does not say the district will apply to extend the urban containment boundary. It says there will be further discussions with the CRD. It does not say the district will pre-zone the 3 strategic development areas recommended by the advisor. In fact, the draft response makes no reference to that recommendation. It does not say the district will permit 6-storey residential development in those locations. Again, the draft response makes no reference to that recommendation. Perhaps I've misunderstood. Perhaps the draft response could simply have said, the district has committed to providing a variety of housing in order to achieve a healthy, sustainable and affordable community through focusing growth in strategic areas that are served by transit away from hazards and near daily needs. Those aren't my words. They're a direct quotation from the 2025 Official Community Plan. The question is no longer whether that vision is desirable. Council has answered that question when it adopted the Official Community Plan. The question is whether the district's planning regulations give practical effect to that vision. In my reading, that is the central finding of the advisor's report. Given that Council adopted this vision in the 2025 Official Community Plan, accepting the advisor's recommendations and the Minister's proposed directives and enhanced reporting requirements should not be difficult or controversial. I encourage Council to do exactly that.
Does anyone else wish to speak? One more.
Linda McAdam, North Saanich. Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm going to talk about two things this evening. Number one is who will be living in these proposed housing developments. And number two, the effect of the proposed change in zoning on property owners that live in these proposed zoning change areas now. I don't see that we have a lot of people in North Saanich couch surfing because they have no place to live. It seems to me that we need to provide housing for young people who want to get out from their parents' basements, for people who are working in this area and earning low salaries, minimum wage salaries in stores, whatsoever, in that sort of thing, and possibly for people that have mental health issues or whatever. So I would like to know, are we supposed to be building housing at market rate on this land for anybody in Canada who decides they want to work here and stay here and retire here, or are we going to build housing for people that really need it in North Saanich? So that's one consideration. I don't think anybody's talked about this. There's no restrictions on what you're going to, well, you can build. Is it going to be rental? Is it going to be subsidized? Is it going to be, you know, luxury housing for rich people from Toronto to move to? That's something that I think needs to be considered. The second thing that I want to talk about is the effect of the rezoning on people who live in the rezoned areas. And I need information from council on this. What I understand is when you rezone property for a higher use, higher density, bigger buildings, that the value of the property goes up and the taxes go up. Is that true? That's how it works in Vancouver. If that is the case, there's going to be people whose land is rezoned for, say, 6-story apartments or townhouses who could find their taxes go up. And they're going to be stuck paying those taxes until they can sell the property to developers. When you rezone so much land, that land is going to be developed over many, many years of time. Are these property owners going to be stuck paying higher taxes for years? I don't know, but somebody needs to look into that. It also will increase the value of their land, and then that might take the land away from being used as, I don't know, people who want to have their horse or whatever. And then I don't know if you'll have a difference in the property values of acreage in those areas and acreages around here, say. I don't know, but somebody, I think, needs to take a look at that. So that's really all I have to say. I think I haven't heard anybody talk about those two issues, but I think they're quite important.
Okay. I can give you a comment there. In the Lower Mainland, it is a major problem because of what's termed airspace. And that's because you could have in Richmond, as an example, and again, this has been well thought of in the Lower Mainland, where you could have a bicycle shop owner in a single-story building in a street in Richmond. It gets rezoned for higher density, which means you can now put a 20-story building on it. And the poor person that owns that bicycle shop is now paying property tax on the airspace, which is the 19 stories above there. Yeah. It is a problem there. Will it be a problem here? Possibly, but nowhere near to the same extent.
Mm-hmm. But I still think somebody needs to look into those kinds of effects of doing this. And rezoning a huge area all at once, there's no need to do that.
Yep.
So I question why they're doing that as well.
Yeah, that's a different matter. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? I'm seeing no one else coming forward, so I shall call an end to the public participation period. And I see on item 6, the reports. I assume there are no reports, staff? There are no reports, so we move on to item 7, which is unfinished business, which is the District of North Saanich draft letter of response to the housing, obviously to the housing supply. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Supply directives and enhanced reporting requirements. Perhaps I'll make a comment here before I open this up to council. Obviously, there's a big difference here between what you see now in this draft and what you saw a few weeks ago in the initial draft. And of course, the major reasons for that is we've taken staff input, we've taken residents' input, we've taken council input, and we've taken external help input. So the draft response you see now has been carefully constructed based on where we're going to go once we receive a response from the minister. So there's going to be a phase B, phase C, phase D, and who knows from there on. So this council, together with staff, has looked at this and thought of this, and again, constructed this letter based on what we would like the minister to come back with. When it comes to items like, for instance, consumption of services, that's a term of art in the appraisal industry. It's also a term of art in some ways in the land economics industry. What it means for BC, and this is my view, is that when the province decided it was going to do this massive increase in housing, which is an increase in density, they should have looked at just one part of consumption of services. Where are the hospitals? Hospitals, as an example, are already got 8, 9, 10-hour waiting lists. If you're going to increase the population by 25 to 50% over the next 20 years, as per what this province wants, they should be building hospitals now, because they can take 8 to 10 years to construct. So that particular consumption of services has been put in there for a specific reason, to see what response we get back from the government, and we will have answers to that. Does it affect North Saanich consumption of services? To a smaller extent, because it then goes back to the micro aspect of a consumption of services is roads and water, sewer, stormwater, but that's down the road. It doesn't form part of this particular report. So again, this has been carefully constructed, and it's been carefully constructed, again, as I just said, to get a response from the province. And once we get that response, obviously, you as members of North Saanich will know, because it'll be made public. And it'll be interesting, to say the least. So now I'll open it up to council. Council, any questions, comments? Councillor McClintock.
Yes, thank you. And in my term on council over the past 12 years, I've never seen the public input, as far as the written input is concerned, on any other item that's been before council. It's great to see. It's great to see the thought that was put in, and the effort that everybody has given. And there seems to be a constant theme that this council has looked at as far as crafting this letter. This letter was a collaborative effort by council and the mayor, as well as staff, and the mayor has already pointed out who was involved in it. There are some serious concerns that struck me, not only from the directives, but from the report, that are now in this letter. And I think it's clear, and the tone of the letter, I think, is very, very important. We have had discussion about how we'd like to proceed, and there was some differences as to how we would approach this. I believe that this council has settled on a letter that is the most effective, and will be heard by the minister. Now, the minister has enormous authority to exercise that over us, being the municipality. We'll see where it goes from there. This is just the beginning of the conversation that we'll have with the minister, and we have to see where it goes. There are some. Again, I don't want to get into the minutiae about what's being said on each paragraph and each line. I do thank the speakers for coming forward As to whether or not it will be altered or not, I don't see it being substantive enough. However, thank you very much for not only speaking today, but the letters that came in, and we look forward to continued input because we will see what this community will accept as far as a response from the minister.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I see none. Councillor McConkey.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank all the members of our community who have taken the time to provide their feedback to Council to assist us with drafting our response letter to the Minister of Housing. And thank you to staff for all the additional work that has been done to support this process. And I know how important this is to our community. I appreciate your emails, phone calls, and for attending our meetings, and for those of you who spoke during public participation, especially during the middle of summer when I know it's a very busy time for many people. And I truly appreciate your contribution to this effort, and it has been a collaborative one. There is a lot that's gone into this to date, but I did hear through a couple of comments, and it's something that did catch my eye as well too, was a comment in regards to the UCB and the inclusion of Dean Park. I do believe that could use a little tweaking on the wording there.
Yeah,
because when I read it myself, when I read it out loud, it kind of reads differently when I read it just silently. So I would like to see a little bit more defined language than that as far as the entire UCB. But again, thank you for everyone for the contribution, and we'll, I guess, look forward to the next steps.
Thank you. Again, councillors, questions, comments? Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm going to pretty much echo the comments of Councillor McConkey. I appreciate the work that's gone into this this draft. I think it's better aligned with what our community is telling us, and it's a more collaborative effort. So I'm appreciate all the work that's gone into it. And I had the same question, was just around which one of the speakers commented was Dean Park. I'm reading that same way, and I'm hoping we can actually reword that slightly. Perhaps if we have a conversation around what the context was, and then we can find some wording that would better suit.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sanjeev.
Thank you, Chair. Like fellow colleagues, I would like to acknowledge the work and the input from the residents who have been very proactive and who have provided vital input. I agree with the urban containment boundary comment, Dean Park, and also I needed to highlight something that was raised by one of the speakers with regards to RGS, that the housing numbers and that were allocated do not justify what we already have approval in terms of RGS. So I think there should be some emphasis on that. If there is room to do that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any second round of comments from council? I see none. I'll make a comment, particularly with the one. Mr. Gould was correct. When I looked at it, it can be misleading. What the intent of that is, and what I will suggest as wording, and I'll do this as check the temperature of council first, is that staff, in that particular paragraph where we got cannot support movement of the urban containment boundary, I suggest that we add in any area of North Saanich, and with regard to or the inclusion of Dean Park Estates within Area 3 as directed by the CBR report. Staff?
Yeah, through the chair. Is that, oh, Holly, sorry, I was just checking. We're on page 249 of the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Fourth paragraph down. And sorry,
Fifth one down, isn't it?
My
1,
colleagues
2, 3, 4,
have
5.
that captured. Oh, Holly's on it. Sorry about that.
So I'm not putting that out as a motion right now. I'm putting it out to see what the council to discuss. Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, I guess I will support it when you put it forward as a motion.
Okay, thank you. Has staff? Oh, yeah, I thought you put your hand up. Okay, thanks. Council, any other comments before I put it down as a motion? No, then the motion I'll do is as stated, that after urban containment boundary, add in any area of North Saanich, and then continues with all the inclusion of Dean Park Estates within Area 3 as directed in the CBRE report. Again, was it in the CBRE report, staff? Do you know if it was a direction or a suggestion? I know it's a tough question if you may not have the report.
Through the chair, I do have the report, though, but I don't think I'll be able to find it in a timely manner, though.
Okay, what I would suggest is then that we'll do the motion based on direction, and that if staff comes back in the morning and says it's not a direction but a suggestion, then we will make the change tomorrow morning. Is that okay, staff? Thank you. So, again, the motion is after urban containment boundary in any area of North Saanich, then it continues, within any areas of North Saanich, or the inclusion of Dean Park Estates within Area 3 as directed by CBRE report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McConkey, questions, comments? Councillor McClintock?
Yes, thank you. Is it necessary to specify Dean Park when you've already said any area of North Saanich, or?
No, because the inclusion of Dean Park Estates is a different directive with regard to the urban containment boundary. But the change suggested by CBRE does include Dean Park Estates.
Yes, I understand that, and I did read that, but I was just wondering whether or not your motion was redundant, or I'm certainly in support of it, but just toss that out for clarity.
No, it's not redundant because because the way this has been constructed to generate a response from the province, Dean Park Estates we've mentioned specifically, not any other area within North Saanich. Councillor McConkey.
Thank you. Yes, through the chair. Just on, I'm looking at I took the CBRE report out of a previous agenda, but I see on page 44 of the report, it does say state established southeast quadrant infill area, which Dean Park Estates has been identified as. So, right. And that's where it's the panhandles, lots, duplexes, all that sort of thing. So that's.
Okay, thank you. So does it say if it's a directive or is words of a suggestion?
It's under. It's under item 3.1.6. So whether that is a directive or a recommendation, I don't know, because it was a fairly
staff
complex report.
If I may, through the chair, if I may, there are explicitly 4 directives under the proposed directives, and that's the first section of their summary, and then it goes into the enhanced reporting section. And item number 1 is the urban containment boundary area, and that's when it talks about McTavish and the southeast quadrant itself. So it appears to be under the enhanced reporting. It's enhanced reporting criteria.
So is the enhanced report a directive or a suggestion?
It's just an enhanced, it's not a directive.
Suggestion, okay, thank you. So I'll change the motion then from directed as suggested in the CBRE report. Are you okay with that, Councillor Marshall? Thank you. We won't do an amended motion. Any further questions, comments? I'm seeing none. Those in favour? Unanimous? And again, I appreciate what a number of residents have said here tonight, but I'm going to suggest we don't make those changes to this particular report because many of the comments will be once we receive a response, or after we receive a response from the Minister to this particular letter. So we're not ignoring what you've said. It's just, again, we've already considered it when we would put those kind of questions or requests. And we did consider putting them in this type of report, but the decision by the experts was, don't do that, do it later. So again, Council, anything else with regard to the report? Councillor Marshall? Sorry? Oh, McConkey.
Thank you, Chair. The only comment I have is I know that the extension we had was until July 31st, and I see the date of the draft is July 31st. Is there any capacity within staff to have this compiled for tomorrow and sent out tomorrow instead of the very 11th hour?
Yeah, this has been sent out tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you. Then I guess I just have to have the date changed on it, that's all.
Yeah, I'm assuming that would be automatic. Yeah, is that okay, okay, staff? Thank you. Further questions, comments? So we now have 49 emails. Does council wish to speak, bring forward any one of them to address further? Or should we simply go, not simply, it's not the thing, or should we go to the recommendation by staff? And Councillor McClintock?
Yes, I can make the recommendation. I don't see council picking any particular letter out.
Okay.
But I'll certainly make the recommendation. That council receive and consider the public feedback submitted to the District of North Saanich.
Sorry, Jack, if I may.
I'm sorry.
I think what we've done is we've received it. We've made an amendment, one amendment. So I would suggest is that we, because we've considered it, is that we not adopt. The motion is to accept the letter as presented tonight with Amendment 1 made. That's a suggestion.
Yes, I was going to do that on point 2.
Oh, my apologies then.
Okay, yeah. I was still on point 1 there. If I could continue. My recommendation is that council receive and consider the public feedback submitted to the District of North Saanich regarding the draft letter of response to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs. I break that motion in 2, or do you want them both?
Do them both.
Okay. And to accept the amended draft letter of response to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs as presented, or approve the draft letter for response with the following amendments, which we've made. And the following amendment was any area of North Saanich or area of Dean Park as suggested in the CBRA report.
Okay. Staff, is that acceptable?
Yes, the motion is acceptable. I do have another piece through the chair. A member of the public did just approach us and request to have one more person speak. So I thought I would offer it to the council for consideration. It's item number 16, L. Dayton. And she was unaware that the public participation was closing. So.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have a motion to accept one person coming forward?
I've got no objections to that. Do I make my motion after the speaker or before?
Well, we haven't seconded it yet, so
No.
It's open on the floor.
Okay.
And this is the time to do it, yes. Do you have a motion to do that? Yes, Councillor McClintock, seconded. Sorry? For the speaker? Yes, one speaker, yes. Okay. Those in favour? Unanimous?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got a different topic for you guys tonight, hopefully a little refreshing. I wanted to talk again, please, about the traffic safety issues on Barrett Drive within Dean Park, and particularly as it relates to speed and the safety of people that are walking along there and parked cars on both sides of Barrett Drive. And when there's no sidewalk and people are forced out into the road as the shrubs and trees are not cut back, so there's nowhere for people to go. And when you've got the parked cars there as well, they're walking right out onto the road. And it's an extreme safety issue, in particular where the bus stops, the school bus. The line of sight is obstructed to the point where traffic is sometimes clocked at up to 80 kilometers an hour, and they go right through a stopped school bus with the signs out. And one day the children are going to get hit. Now, I was told that this needed to wait until September. I understand the urgency of the densification issues, but I'm asking, please, Mayor, Council, and staff, if you could consider making this a priority before someone is literally killed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So we come back to Councillor McClintock's motion, and the staff said it's a valid motion. So do we have a seconder? Councillor Marshall. Council, further questions, comments? Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, again, just to say thank you for everybody's work on this and the collaborative effort it took to bring the letter forward. I've taken quite a few notes on what was said tonight, and I look forward to further discussion on that. And I'm happy with the letter to see basically the approach of finalizing our zoning bylaws and seeing how our OCB does before we jump into all of these other directives. And I thank you, Mayor, for clarifying what the process is going forward. We're certainly hearing you. The letter does touch very briefly on asking the minister for a cumulative impact analysis, so giving us a little bit of information about how that worked, and I think that's a good starting point. So I'm definitely hearing what you're saying, and I appreciate the approach that Council's taking of this is the first step in responding to the minister, so thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? I see none. So we're looking for motions, new business, and I understand is, well, first of all, is there any motions, new business? I assume not. Sorry? Oh, my apologies, yes. Okay, those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to motions and new business. There are no new motions or new business. So we move on to item 9, with correspondence. There is no correspondence. There's correspondence for council information. I look for a motion based on received. Councillor Marshall, seconded. Councillor McConkey, those in favour? Unanimous. And there is no rise in report, I assume. Thank you. And I look for a motion for adjournment. Councillor Marshall, seconded. Councillor McClintock, those in favour? Unanimous, and thank you very much. We're done for tonight. And again, I thank you all for showing up and giving your comments.